Started.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let's get back to where we were in the last class. We are looking at arrays. In particular, we have looked at simple things like obtaining the histogram of the quiz 1 marks for our class. We have also seen an interesting example of evaluating a polynomial for a particular value of x that is given to us by the user. And in this example or in this exercise, we also learned a few things about how to design the program for a given task and how to refine it so that it doesn't do the naive thing. Naive thing is correct, but that may not be the best thing in terms of the number of basic operations that have to be done. We started with n squared number of multiplications. We went to 2n and then eventually to n multiplications. And that is what we learned from this exercise of evaluating this polynomial. And that last thing that we used is called as the Horner's rule. So with that, we had also, we also moved on and we started with searching and sorting of arrays, but we had just started with searching. So here we had looked at the basic linear search, which is something fairly simple, which you are given an integer array of size n. That is, the indices are from 0 to n minus 1, and there is a key. The initialization of the key is not done in this program snippet, but you are interested in finding the index at which this element is present. If it is not present, this snippet doesn't do anything. It just quietly exits. But in general, you may want to say -1 or not found or something, which can be done outside the loop by keeping some flag. So this is something which is a linear search. We know that this linear search can be applied to any array. While we are dealing with integer arrays, these things will work for other arrays as well. Except that the comparison in some cases characters will be fine. Floats, you have to be careful. And when we go to user defined data types, this comparison will have to be replaced by some function which does this. So leaving apart that part, we asked whether this linear pass can be avoided, and we said yes. If the array is sorted, we can in fact avoid this linear pass. And we started with discussing the binary search, which works as follows. We have an input whose guarantee is given to us that it is a sorted array, and the sorting can be in any way. In our example, it is sorted from sorted in non-increasing order. That is, it is decreasing as long as the elements are distinct, but it can be non-increasing if there are duplicates. And we are given a key, and we are interested in finding whether the key is present in that array. The same question is there. However, the input has the guarantee of being sorted. So our idea was check the middle element. If the middle element happens to be our key, we had started with the key which is 6, and we said that the middle element is a of 4 here, which is 15, which is not the key. If it is not the key, then we have to decide which part of the array it will lie in, and that is dependent on how the key compares with the middle element of the array. In this case, the key is strictly smaller than the middle element of the array. Therefore, it is going to lie in this part if at all it lies. And therefore, we can narrow down our search from A5 to A9 and then repeat this procedure on this smaller array, which is A5 to A9. Remember, the nice part about this is that the smaller subproblem is also an array. It is a contiguous set of elements, and this is also sorted. So both these things are something which are guaranteed to us given that the array is, the original array is sorted. So we were in the process of writing this code for binary search. So I have written out a template of this, and I would like you to do what you have done in quiz 1. Exactly fill out the fill-ups here such that this this completes the code for the binary search. So this int n, it is assumed that it has been initialized or scanned. Key is something that we are showing that it is explicitly being scanned. I'm saying that I have two integer variables start and end which are initialized to 0 and n minus 1 to denote that start lies at the first index of the array and end lies at the last index of the array in which we want to search to begin with. You need to fill in this while condition. Then you have to write code or write an expression which will compute the mid index for this array given this start and end. Please use this start and end so that you can compute mid using start and end. If a mid happens to be the key, then you have found it and you have printed out the index at which the key occurs. Because we are using break, it is fine. We don't have to write an else here, because if it is equal to key, we are going to break. Otherwise, if it is not equal to key, we are going to go into this if condition and check it. If a mid is greater than key, then we are going to modify the start index of the array such that the array gets shrunk. Else, it must be the case that a mid is strictly less than key, because it cannot happen that a mid is equal to key. Then we are going to modify the end index of the array. And those are the four things that you need to write down. All of you spend a minute, think about it, write down the fill-ups, and then we will see what answers you have written. So please write down fill-up 1, fill-up 2, just like what you have been used to doing in the exam.
If a mid is greater, we modify the end, right? Since it's a decreasing array.
Yeah, a mid is okay. So a mid is greater than key. So hold on. So a mid is okay. So if you have this value which is 15 and a mid is greater than key. No, this is fine. So you have to modify the start. So was it Arjun?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So
I think I made a
are you convinced, or do you have still a doubt? Just think about it for a minute.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, so it is sorted in ascending order, ma'am.
It is sorted in descending order.
Okay.
So the array given in the top, that is an example array, right? And we are going to use it always like this. Again, you can change your, the code will change when you have it in the other order, but we are going to look at it in this way.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so since that has come up, let us check these third and fourth fill up first. So let's take the answers for third and fourth fill up. So I am looking at your answers. So first of all, is there any confusion about should we change the start or should we change the, is there something wrong about that? Does everybody agree that if a mid is greater than the key, then this array is sorted in decreasing order, if it helps, so that we'll assume that there are distinct elements. So it is sorted in decreasing order. And therefore, if a mid is greater than key, then if at all your key is going to lie, it is going to lie in the right part of the array. So therefore, it is correct to modify the start and keep the end as it is. So, I'm just looking at the start and the end, and the start and the end that are here, that is the third and the fourth fill up, they should be done in the following way. That is, start should be set to mid plus 1, because we are not interested in mid element at all now, because mid is not equal to the key. Therefore, there is no point in looking at mid. We can skip that element and start can become mid plus 1 in this case. In the other case, when we know that we have to look at the left part, start doesn't have to change, but end has to change. And end will be equal to mid minus 1. So there's no need to look at mid in any of the cases, because mid is something which is not equal to the key. That is something that is assured because you are in this place, right? And otherwise you would have already broken out of the loop. So I hope everybody agrees that this is mid plus 1 and this is mid minus 1. Now we come back to this fill up about how to set mid itself, right? So there are multiple ways to set mid, but one thing that works is, I mean, you can work this out that this, I mean, start plus end by 2. This is something which will work out, and this will set your mid to exactly the mid element, not exactly, but if it is not an odd number of things, it will set it to the left part of the mid and not the right part. So that is how mid is going to be set. And what we are using here is that start plus end by divided by 2. This is going to automatically be an integer because mid is something which is an integer. So although it is not written here, start, end and mid are indices into the array, and therefore they are all guaranteed to be integers. Not guaranteed, they are declared to be integers, and therefore just doing this start plus end by 2, even though this can be a fractional value, this will evaluate to a error, or mid will be set to an integer because of the way we have defined this mid. So these three fill-ups, is everybody okay with these three fill-ups, or are there any questions here? There are other ways to define mid, and they can be correct as long as they evaluate to the mid value. Okay, so I'll quickly browse through your answers just to see whether there is anything which is slightly different from Okay, so many of you have given this exact answer, so I don't have much to say in the answers. Now we'll go to this last fill up which I have kept still not completed. So here we'll just, I mean, again, many of you have given the correct answer, but I don't have a sense of how many. So I'll just go through this for the 6 value, and we'll see what happens. So at 6, we want to check the value key is equal to 6, at which our start is 0, end is 9, and therefore our mid is going to be 4, which is conveniently it's this 15, and this doesn't happen to be equal to the key. Therefore we are going to modify start, and start will become 5. Then we have 5 and 9, so this will become 7, and we are going to evaluate here. At this point, it is again 6 is something which is smaller than 6 is smaller than 8. Therefore, we are going to again modify start. And at this point, we'll go to this index 7, which is not 7, index 7, index 8, which has value 7, which is again not equal to this. Finally, we will go to this index. Note that start is equal to 8, end is equal to 9, after which start will become 9, end will become 9. And what will be the last condition at which, I mean, what will be the last thing when we will end the loop, or when will we know that it is, we have to end the loop? So what will be the value of start and end? I mean, what should we keep as the condition here? So what I want to ask is, should we check when start is equal to end? Should we be checking that, or should we not be checking that? Okay, so many of you have written that you should be checking that. That is, start is, so while start is less than or equal to end, we need to keep checking this. At the when we cross over, that is start becomes greater than end, we should quit this loop because we have crossed over and we no longer need to look at the array because we have looked at all the values which could possibly be having the key value. The one thing that could have gone wrong for some of you who have written that start is less than end, you should look at an array of size 1, and at that place if you have an array of size 1 to begin with, or at any point you end up with a small portion of the size of array where it has just one element that you need to check, you still need to check that element whether that happens to be the key. So therefore, if you do start is strictly less than end, you will miss out one corner case at which your program will not work. So so this is the complete code for binary search. There are a few things that have not been defined. For example, int, mid, int, start and all has not been done, but this is a snippet which gives you the complete idea for the binary search. So any questions, any comments here? Okay, so what I want you to do as an exercise when you have time is, this is something which will not be given in the lab, but this is something that you need to do yourself. Take a large sorted array. So this large should be really large, and you take this large sorted array. How do you create this large sorted array? You just write in Excel 1, 2, 3, 4 up to whatever, a large number. I think you may have to take significantly large values to make this exercise work. At least 1 lakh or something. Again, the array size, whether you can fit it, I think you should be able to take a large array and define it in memory. Use linear search to find an element which is not present in the array. So if you have just elements 1 to n, just take n minus 1 or a negative number which is not present in the array, and find out that, or look at the time that linear search requires. And then for the same array which is sorted, because you took from 1 to n the sorted array, use binary search to find the same element again which is not present in the array. Count and print the number of comparisons. So how do you count this here, number of comparisons? So you need to keep a counter. So whenever this a mid is equal to key is done, you need to increment a counter. Whenever this happens, you need to increment a counter. So it will either be in the if or in the else. Anyway, it is going to always do this comparison. So you need to print out the number of comparisons and tell us how many comparisons do you see, and also check its performance in terms of time. That is, how many comparisons did your program require for a large array of size n? We know that the linear search is going to do n comparisons because it will not find the element even after searching every element in the array. So it is indeed going to do n comparisons. However, binary search will do significantly smaller, and I would like you to observe and note down how many comparisons it does for a large array. So this is some exercise that you need to complete whenever you have time and you have free time, and do this on REPL.IT. So any questions, comments here? Okay, so what was the condition in the while loop? So this condition is what you're asking, Rahul. Start is less than or equal to end. Okay, is that clear, or is there any difficulty about, or is there any question about that? Okay, so, okay, fine. So then I will assume that this is okay. Is there anything that anybody wants to point out? Okay, so let's move to the more challenging question, because we had assumed that the input was given to us as a sorted array. So how do you get this array sorted? That is our question. So just give me a minute. Yeah, so the question, okay, so Ashwin, right? Ashwin is asking the number of comparisons given that there is no matching element. Yes, so as I said, right, select elements from 1 to n, write them in the Excel sheet in a sorted order, and just copy them in a text file. And you know already how to do input redirection, so you don't have to manually enter them. So just do a scanf for a large value of n and ask for a key which you are going to scan, which is going to be not present in that. So if you have elements from 1 to n, just ask for a key which is n plus 1 or n plus 2, whatever. It won't be found. And so that you need to find out how many maximum comparisons does linear search do versus binary search does. Okay. Okay, so now we need to look at how to sort this array to make sure that our pre-processing is done for binary search. And as I said that somebody had asked this question in the previous class that if you already have to do sorting, why is binary search more efficient, but you'll spend more time in sorting. That is true, but search happens much more than the times you have to, or the time that is required to sort. So it is much more efficient to keep your array sorted, and therefore we are going to look at these sorting algorithms, which are many of which are implemented, and very fast algorithms for sorting have been implemented in libraries that are available to us. However, we should know how to sort an array, which itself is a very, very fundamental task. Okay, so I think you had already mentioned to me in the last class that some of the sorting algorithms you have at least seen or you have heard about them. So let's look at some sorting algorithms. But before that, I want you to tell me how would you do sorting? So given different tasks, maybe take a task that in which you will do manually sorting. Do not think of the computer algorithms that you have, or in your CS course you have studied. But when you are having to do sorting, how will you do sorting? What are your methods? So it will be nice if some of you speak up and tell me what are different tasks where you have to manually sort things, and what are the techniques that you use. Nobody has to sort anything ever. Books in shelves according to size. Okay, good. Okay, so yeah, it will be very nice if some people speak up. I would also like to hear your voices. So Rahul, would you like to unmute yourself and speak up? Similarly, Janisha, right? One of you.
No.
Yes.
We can find the smallest numbers, then arrange them in a queue.
Okay, so
Comparing
but
with others.
let me just, so you are talking about sorting algorithms, right? I mean, the way you have seen or something. So what is it that, I mean, what is the physical elements what are the physical elements that you are sorting? Yeah, Shwetika, the question is that what are real world applications or real things that you sort you manually using things, and you then you are sorting them. So let's say cards you are sorting, or you are sorting books that somebody has said. So, and how do you sort them? So I want real applications where you have sorted things on your own. Don't worry about the computer algorithms that you have learned about, selection sort, bubble sort, heap sort, and I don't want those names. So Rahul has said that one of you, right? Rahul, I think one of you, or Rahul or somebody else has said books. Then somebody else has said take the minimum element. But what is minimum? I don't know for what is it minimum. Okay, so I'll pick out people. Rajiv Ranjan, would you want to tell us what you sort and sort manually, right? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So what is a physical task that you have done for sorting, and what have you sorted? What is your method?
Means like, ma'am, if we have done past project, so we can sort that by time and date in the
Okay.
folder.
Okay. Do you do it manually?
Yes, ma'am, to arrange in sorted way so that I can find it easily in time.
Okay, but okay, fine. It is very likely that you will use the time of the this thing, and the computer will sort it for you by a modified date or something, or do you manually sort it?
No, ma'am, computer does that.
Okay, so already computer does that, so that is fine. So I would really like to have a physical task where you are manually sorting. This is a good application and which requires sorting. Yeah. Do you agree that it is more or less, I mean, you are just telling the computer to sort it. So you don't know what sorting method it is using.
Yes, ma'am, you can see it.
Okay, okay. Yes. So one of the things that I typically had to do when I was when it was in person classes, and I was holding these classes in person for you. At after quiz one, I would get these 100 sheets. I would I would check them out, and then I would have to sort them to enter the marks in the Excel sheet. So this 100 sheets that are there available to me. I would have to sort them. And what would be a method? So let's just take this concrete example. And what would be so let's say you are given 100 sheets which are I want to sort them according to roll numbers, and let's just assume that I am teaching a single department class, let's say mechanical engineering, and it has MEs ME20 B001 to ME20 B100, and this is the class that I have, but I have mixed them up because I corrected them in any random order. How would I sort them? So one way is to look for, okay, let's look for where is this ME20 B001 roll number and find out, and then keep stacking them down so that finally I will have the stack or in them in the order. So is this the way you will do it, or how would you do it?
Ma'am, just pick up a random sheet of paper, and then if the next roll number is greater than the one which you have, you place it on top of it. If it's less than that, you place it below it, and you just keep doing that again and again.
Okay, but now when you have, let's say you have 20 sheets that you have sorted correctly. Now you get the 21st sheet, you have to look at its correct place. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yeah, so I see many people who are answering. This is fine. So let's just think about the manual sorting process of these 100 papers, physical papers, with one answer sheets, and the different ways that we would sort them. So the first way that Ishthartha has said, that you will pick up the first paper. It is anyway sorted. I mean, there is nothing to sort. The second paper can either be larger in roll number or smaller, and therefore I will put it at the appropriate place. There is not too much to do. The third roll number is interesting because it can be the first, it can be the middle, or it can be the third, and you will put it accordingly. Now, when you are going to do this, let's say you have taken 20 and you have somehow arranged them properly. The 21st that comes up, you'll have to find its correct place, and this continues, right? And this finding its correct place itself becomes a sort, I mean, itself becomes searching the right place for this 21st roll number. Wherever it is, it can be the last, it can be somewhere in between, or it can be the first element. So this sorting method is called as insertion sort, because you are inserting the 21st element into the correct place. This method is called insertion sort, and we are going to look at how to write code for insertion sort in our thing that we are going to study. This is insertion sort. Is there any other way that you can think of sorting this?
Ma'am,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think Ishthartha was.
Okay, so
Sorry.
one by one, yeah. Sri Lakshmi or Siddharth, one of you, yeah.
Yeah, so ma'am, how about we just look at the previous, previous paper? For instance, we've got 20 papers in our hand. The 21st paper, we merely compare it with the 20th paper. If it happens to be more than the 20th paper, it goes below it. Otherwise, it goes above it. We're not checking for the other elements, just the 21st paper. So by the
But
end
then,
of the yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me just understand. So 1 to 20, they are sorted correctly, or they are just in any arbitrary order?
So ma'am, first paper, we will leave it as it is. Second paper, we'll see if it's bigger than the first paper or not. If it's bigger, it goes below it. If it's smaller, it comes.
Yeah, so first and second are sorted, right?
Yeah, so first and second are sorted. The third paper comes, if the second paper is bigger than the third paper, it goes below the third paper. Otherwise, it stays above the third paper. Then for the fourth paper, we do the same.
Wait. So when the third paper comes in, the third paper's correct position could be the first paper amongst these three. Is that correct? But you are not putting it in the correct place. Is that what you are saying?
No, ma'am, we're not doing insertion sort. Just the previous.
Yeah.
It will take time, but I'm just saying it's another way of sorting.
Yeah. But if you do if you look at, so you have the first paper, second paper, and the third paper is going to be the first one. How would you, and you put it in the middle, then you don't have any invariant, right? You don't have the invariant that it is sorted.
Ma'am, it's not sorted. We have to repeat this process. We have to do all the way to the 100 papers.
So this repetition is also required, but this I don't know whether this is a standard algorithm, but yeah, so this is something that maybe it can be repeatedly done, but it will have to have a convergence, and you will have to do something to make sure that it is sorted. But this is not the standard insertion sort. Whatever Ishtartha said is the standard insertion sort. Okay, so thank you, Sri Lakshmi, but I do not know how to immediately say this as a standard sorting method. Okay, so I think Siddharth wanted to say something. Can you tell your method?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. I wanted to point out that the last method pointed out was kind of labor intensive. Like, first of all, we find a sheet and then search in the previous stack and then see. So what we can do is we can do the labor just once. What we will do is we will find either the roll number 1 or roll number 100 from the stack and then place it at one place and then find the previous or the next one, like roll number 99 or roll number 2. And then in this way, we can start from 1, 2, 3, and then till the last one.
So then you have moved the labor intensive part of finding the first one to finding the first element. This itself is a labor intensive task, because you are going to search all the 100 sheets to find the first element, right? Maybe it is.
But ma'am, then slowly the number of sheets will decrease, right? Like after
Exactly.
50 sheets, it will be 20 sheets. So it will be easier to find the 20 sheets.
Yeah, but remember that in the first method, the first few elements are sorted. Whatever elements that you are picking up and putting, they are all sorted. So searching a place in the sorted array is fairly easy, because we have seen that we can do binary search. Do you see that? So there is a labor intense thing of finding its right place. But it is in the sorted portion. So in that sorted portion, you can certainly use binary search.
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
not about
Wait,
the
I
computer
thought we were
algorithm.
talking about engine sorting and searching.
Of course, we are talking about sorting. But let's say you have sorted 20 sheets and you have found out the 21st sheet. Then at 21st sheet, when you want to insert it, you need to find a right position for it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is what you are saying is intense, because you need to find out its correct position. But note that this process can be simplified, because you can do binary search, because you can pick out a random place, ask, okay, is this the place for the 20th thing? If it is, how will you search that? Because you will have to look at the two consecutive ones. If it is not, you know that you have to look at only the right side or the left side, just what we did for binary search. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there are so the first one that Ishtartha had pointed out is what is called as insertion sort. Then whatever Siddharth has pointed out is also a valid sort, which is called as selection sort, which is picking up the minimum or the maximum. And what I would do in case I want to sort out this is something which is possibly what you will also do, but you are possibly biased by this sorting algorithms that you have seen. You are going to look at the sheet and possibly form buckets. That is, okay, take the first sheet, okay, it is roll number 27. Then I'll put it into one place where I'm going to collect all the roll numbers which are from 21 to 30, then 31 to 40, 1 to 10, and so on, and just put them into buckets unsorted, and then take each bucket, which is a small size bucket, which is of size 10, quickly sort them using some simple method like either insertion sort or selection sort, or or there are other ways also, bubble sort and so on. And then, I mean, it's just saying that you keep moving things behind and so on as long as these 10 things get sorted. Once the 10 sheets are sorted, these I will put them together with everything which is sorted and then move on, which is called as a bucket sorting algorithm, where you first move things into buckets and then you sort the smaller buckets using some other sorting algorithm. If the buckets are big, then you can even bucketize it further and sort it. While bucket sort is not something that we are going to do in this class for the coding thing, but we are going to look at insertion and selection sort, which are two very popular sorting algorithms, and they also illustrate some nice things about the coding that we want to illustrate. So these are not at all, and this is not at all an exhaustive discussion about the sorting algorithms. There are many more sorting algorithms which you will learn later, but at the moment we'll stick to these two sorting algorithms, which are insertion sort and quick sort. Not quick sort, the selection sort. So any comments or anything? Okay, so let's get started with the simplest sorting algorithm, which is the selection sort algorithm, which I think Siddharth had described. So we are given this array of elements which are unsorted. We want to put them into a sorted order. So what we are going to do is we want to sort them in decreasing order. Throughout our discussion, we will just sort things in decreasing order or non-increasing order. And so therefore the first element should be the largest, or and so on. And the last element should be the smallest amongst all of the elements that are given. So this algorithm, which is called as selection sort, works as follows. We are going to find out the maximum element, place it in its first location, sort the array from the second to the sort the array from the second location to the end. And once you have the sorted array from the second location to the end, then you have the whole array sorted. How do you sort the array from the second location to the end? You again apply selection sort, find the max of these elements and keep continuing, right? So this is how selection sort works. What I want to illustrate is this one part, find the max element in this, is going to be something which is the intense part of this this algorithm. This is something which takes roughly n comparisons to find out the max in the first time, n minus 1 when you have the smaller array, n minus 2 when you have the yet smaller array, and fewer. That's what Siddharth was saying. In the insertion sort method that we will see later, the initial part may be easy, but then as you go along, some part of it remains sorted, and therefore you still have to do some intense work, but possibly using something which is slightly simpler than looking at the min of these elements. Again, they are comparable in terms of the performance. None of them is strictly better than the other. They are just two different ways of sorting elements. Okay, so just to see it in action, if you have this array which is given to you, we are going to have the maximum element at its correct place, which is 32. After this, the task that remains to us is to sort this part of the array which has been highlighted. And then we are going to find the max there, put it at its correct position. When you put this at its correct position, what happens to the element that was here? It swaps its position with the with the maximum element in the remaining part of the array, and that is why now this part of the array remains to be sorted. So what are our main tasks in this selection sort? One, given the start and the end index of the arrays that we are interested in. We want to find the max element in the array. Once we have found the max element, we want to swap two integers. Although they are array elements, we already know how to swap two integers. We have written code for that. So it is something which is familiar to us. So the only thing that we have to do is find the max element. And in fact, it is more interesting to know the index of the max element, because the max index is something that is important to us. What happens if there are multiple elements which have the max? We just take any arbitrary one which is the maximum index. You can return the first one, you can return the last one, doesn't matter, because in the remaining part, the max will continue to remain the max of the remaining array as well. So it doesn't hurt us if we take the first or the last or any arbitrary maximum index. So these are the two things that we need to do: find the max index. Once we have the max index, we want to swap the elements array of I and array of max index. And these are just two integer variables that we know how to swap. So this is what is called as the pseudo code for writing this selection sort. So are there any questions on this? I mean, the pseudocode itself, max index is some variable which will contain the index of the maximum element of the array, which is from I to n minus 1. And this I already is ranging from 0 to n minus 1. We are going to run a loop from 0 to n minus 1. And each time you are going to compute the max index of the index of the element, which is the maximum from I to n minus 1. Once you get this index, which we are calling as max index, we are going to swap the element array of I and array of max index, because the place of this element which is at max index is in fact array of I. So what we will do is just swap, and this ensures is that the element at the first position the first position contains the correct element, that's the maximum element. The second after you have done two iterations of this loop, the second element contains the correct next maximum, assuming that elements are distinct. The third will contain the third maximum, and so on, and therefore your array will get sorted. Again, this is modulo that there are no duplicates in the array. So what we will do in the last, I think we are already out of time, but this is the template for the selection sort. So this is the loop which is running from 0 to n. What you need to do is write this code to compute the max index. That is, this variable max index should contain the index of the max element in the array, index from I to n minus 1. So this is the small loop that I would like all of you to write. Maybe let's spend 2 minutes, but then after that we can stop and we'll continue this in tomorrow's class. So if you have written, or if you can write the code quickly, you can type out your chat messages and leave it here. And I'll not show you the code immediately, but yeah, you will need a similar code to be written during the lab. So you will get practice with that. Even if you don't see this code, that is okay. Okay, so I see people are writing the code for, okay, so please do not use hard-coded constants like 9 or something, although our array size is indeed 9, but use n for your variable. So yeah, so the most important part is there is another for loop here, which is, okay, so anyway, I think I'll just give out the code so that it becomes easier for all of you. So there's another for loop which has to run from I plus 1 to n. And note that it is from I plus 1 to n. Doesn't hurt if you started from I, but it is something that is not required because max index has already been initialized to I, which was done in the previous slide also. And therefore, you can run the loop from I plus 1 to n. Actually, to n meaning n minus 1. And if aj is greater than a of max, so sorry, I should not use this max. It is actually a of max index. Then max index will be modified to be equal to j. So this is a typo here. This should be max index, not max. And this is what is the code that most of you are writing. So at this place, max index will contain the index of the element which contains the maximum value from the from I to n minus 1. So this is where we'll stop. This is in fact how selection sort works. You will require, you will have to write some kind of a variant of computing max index in the lab in today's lab. So this code will help you for writing that. Okay, so I will stop the class here.